Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and you're watching yet another one of my car reviews. Even though I'm not really officially a car reviewer, certainly not a car guy, I'm just the average person, really, who tries a variety of vehicles and then tells you what my experience happens to be, which really is the best kind of review. So if you're looking to spec out, I am not the person to talk to. I can tell you this, after driving this vehicle for the past few weeks, it has been one of the best vehicular experiences I've ever had. And I can't say that upon initial looks, I was thinking this was going to be all that great of a car. Because, let's face it, the Kia Electric Soul doesn't look like, well, the kind of car that I normally drive. This is the only Kia Electric Soul, and if I'm not saying the name of the car correctly, it is the Kia Soul that is the full-on electric vehicle. To my knowledge, it's the only one that is in the state of Washington right now. In fact, it has California plates from the Kia dealership, or I guess the owner of the vehicle, because it's a Kia car, it's not mine. So my initial impressions upon seeing it, yes, boxy design, nothing really remarkable. I'm not the type of person who looks at a car's design outright and can identify the manufacturer of the vehicle, the make of the vehicle, the year of the vehicle, like some people can. Which is really weird, because like with action figures, I notice the sculpt right away, but with cars, I don't. I tend not to notice that. But it was a rather different kind of design compared to what I was used to. Inside the vehicle, though, it seems it's very futuristic. In fact, let me go ahead and turn the car on now. You can hear the boot up sound. It's a nice sound. Great parking spots, something to note, especially with electric vehicles. But there are benefits and drawbacks to that. But this is something that I thought about when I first saw the car. I was like, oh, there are some spots that you can park closer to the building and then plug in. Whether it's a level 1 or a level 2 charging station usually depends on where you happen to be going. And there are features in the car that will help you map out where the nearest charging stations are if you can't plug in at home or you're out on the road. I should get to that experience here as I talk through this particular review as well. It's easy to get into and out of. You open the car door. Yeah, well, that makes sense, but it seems to be a higher profile kind of vehicle. I've been used to cars that sit lower to the ground, and at least from where I sit in the driver's seat or even passenger seat, it's higher. So my legs, have to reach down a little further or stretch down a little further to touch the ground. Not a huge deal. It just felt like it was a higher profile vehicle. I guess, though, the way it was constructed, that's not the case. Just where you sit or how you sit inside the vehicle will make a difference in terms of how you're able to get in and out of the vehicle. I just noticed it was higher than in other vehicles. Simple charging options, really. I mean, if you can get your car home or keep your car at home for about 24 hours, you can charge pretty much from 0 to full capacity, which is right around 86 to 90. I noticed over the course of the couple of weeks that I used it, pretty much ample for a lot of in-car driving. In-town driving. Nice little features. One thing that I've never had before that I absolutely adore, even though my wife Diana loves the butt warmers, I wanted a butt cooler for my entire life, and this car has both seat warmers, that's the official term, I think, and seat coolers, so you can make it hot or cool. You can toggle, like, when the light goes on here, the overhead light, or if the light goes on here, or if it stays off. And I know that's similar in a lot of vehicles, but it really makes a difference. If you're driving and you turn on the radio or you do something different, you'll notice that your range will decrease because you're taking away energy. And that's just something to keep in mind that you wouldn't necessarily have to keep in mind with typical hybrid vehicles or gas-powered vehicles. Just something to remember, but something that was kind of cool too, because you had to think through, how you were going to, play out your trip or, run your errands. And for the most part, I think it was fine, except for one experience, and I'll get to that in just a bit. In starting to use the nav system, this has been a major complaint of mine in a lot of cars, if not all the cars I've ever driven. Out of every vehicle I've ever been in, out of every built-in nav system, this was the most snappy. This was the most responsive, clean. It didn't take a lot of relearning to adapt to the nav system and everything about it. Everything that I wanted to get to was easy to get to. It was quick. It was simple, it was straightforward, it showed the information and got out of your way. Of course, you know, I already love the digital readout, which I realize that some car geeks think is crazy because it's not accurate, but I don't care. Damn accuracy. I just like having a simple number. 80. Oh, okay, 80-mile range. Oh, I'm going 25 miles per hour. I can read that very quickly. And the nav system works just as, well, effectively and efficiently. And just being responsive was something that I really stood out for me, because that's something that is sorely lacking in a lot of other vehicles. I would probably, in terms of everything that I've ever used before in a nav system and the built-in software, I would give this an A. Everything, in terms of readout, in terms of display, in terms of responsiveness, in terms of usefulness, in terms of practicality. If I was grading on a curve, this entire system inside the Kia Electric Soul would get an A. And that's something that I don't think I've ever said about any other car that I've driven. But then again, I've never driven another electric vehicle before. Apparently, this is something that may make a difference for some people, but you can change the mode of the steering in the car. So you can go between sport and comfort and normal. And I just kept it on I think, normal. I don't think I had it on sport, but I guess some people like different types of steerability, something that you can change, but you cannot push the column in and out, the steering column. It's pretty much in that position. You can move it up and down. You can, adjust it up and down. I'm not going to do that right now. You have to think through where you're going to go, how long you're going to be gone, when you need to charge, if you need to charge, if you need to recharge. And we definitely pushed the range of this vehicle. We almost ended up stranded, I will tell you. It was played out in one of our vlogs, which of course we posted to our separate Pirillo Vlogs channel. A lot of the vehicle driving experience was outlined in the vehicle mentions in the Pirillo Vlogs over the past few weeks, so you can tune into those or watch those if you want to see me driving around in the car. Obviously, stationary here because I'm doing a review for you. But it was kind of like a game, and I kind of enjoyed that. You change this and suddenly this gets adjusted, or you have to plan out, and that can both be fun and nerve-wracking, especially because it seems that the charging stations that are all around can be mapped out easily through the system. That's fine. It's easy for you to locate a nearby charging station. However, compatibility of the charging station, speed of the charging station, cost of the charging station, and servicing of the charging station are all up in the air. Like, we ended up going to 4 charging stations when we were trapped, really, with 23 miles to go before we could, not just get home, but that was our range before the car would die. And we had to find the right kind of charging station to charge up within 20 minutes time. We could get to 80% battery efficiency, which would easily get us home. But we were going from station to station to station to station, and we went to 2, 3, 4 of them before we finally found one at a dealership that was luckily open late at night for us to be able to charge up. And even that station, the screen was broken, and it was a little nerve-wracking, but it said, hey, yeah, you can charge the vehicle, but, the screen's broken, and I'd never gone through that particular process before, so it was kind of like a gamble or a guess. Luckily, everything worked, but again, it's like a game, but it was very nerve-wracking at the same time, and I think if there was anything that I would say is a vote against an electric vehicle, it's not the vehicle itself. I think this vehicle is outstanding. I think it's the infrastructure that is just now kind of falling into place, which is a big deal, and it speaks to who I think, or where you wouldn't want to own this vehicle, who I don't think this vehicle's for, but I'll get to that further in the review, and I think, you could probably take a guess as to where I'm going to say that that is going to be, or I guess who this would not be for. The app integration, there was app you can download to help you manage, finding things, or knowing where your car was when you were parked, but honestly, I found most of what I needed baked into the car itself. I didn't feel like I needed to use the application. By the way, the car's still running right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. And it sings to me. Not a lot of legroom in the back seat. Wasn't a huge deal. Diana, my wife, didn't really feel like there was an issue. I was able to get the car seat installed easily. It had the clamps for me to lock the car seat in. So safety was a primary concern, and we didn't run into any problems with this car, which is good because, yay, we don't want to run into problems in a car. Very small trunk space, but I would say ample for a lot of grocery shopping, simple shopping. You keep your charging cable back in the trunk that you can pull out and then plug into the wall at home, or you can, of course, keep it with, at home. I ended up accidentally dropping it and breaking off a plastic latch that helps it clip in. something that I would say is more of a design flaw of the actual latching system, but it still worked. The cable, as I connected it to the vehicle at home, still worked. It was just a surprise to me that it would be as fragile as it was. I mean, I just dropped it for maybe a foot or two, and snap, it popped off. Oops. I didn't charge the vehicle overnight every night, but when I got down to like 50% range, I'm sorry, 50-mile range on the car, and I was, done with in-town driving, I would plug it in overnight and then be back at 100% battery capacity at the end of the night. One of the first words that popped out of everybody's mouth, if I was driving around a friend or Diana, even my first experience in driving the car, was that it is smooth. It is like gliding. The car floats. That's the easiest explanation for it. I don't know how else to best explain the sensation of driving in the vehicle. You're riding in the vehicle, but you're floating. You're gliding. And that was the word I used, gliding, floating, and these are the words that were used by other people who were in the car as well. This is something that, again, I could accommodate as potentially a primary vehicle, more so as a secondary vehicle, if only because its primary use would be in-town driving or for simple commutes. Day trips, unless you knew you were charging overnight, would be a tremendous challenge in this car. You had an interior warning for going in reverse, as well as an exterior or external warning, so that people knew you were backing up. You could hear beeping outside the vehicle, and had a rear camera in the nav with warning bars telling you that you were about to hit something or there may be something in your way. I would say that as far as blind spot visibility, when I would turn, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I mean, I would wish for more, but the column is a little thicker than I would want it to be. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. I would say right in the middle for me. Gentle acceleration on this car. I mean, it's an electric car, and I was kind of accustomed to this with driving a hybrid before. You can, speed up. You could accelerate as fast as you wanted to. As fast as the car could go. I couldn't tell you how fast, because how fast did I need to jump up to 35 miles per hour? Not that fast. But I was pretty much always in eco mode. The only thing I noticed, it wasn't necessarily in the acceleration, but as soon as you let your foot off the gas pedal, the car immediately kicks into conserving energy mode, which was great. It was just a little, not jarring, but you kind of had to get used to it, but it wasn't a huge deal. It wasn't, something that was like, oh, this is horrific. It was fine. Independent climate controls, one side or the other, again, breaking down the energy efficiency and usage. If I'm the only person in the car, I don't need to heat up the other side, so I can save energy by just heating up this side or cooling it down, because I very rarely want the heat. Even now, sitting here in the rain, I'm sweating. Accessible USB ports and power, that was very, very nice right here in front. Didn't use them all that much, though. The only thing that took me a while to get used to in the car was just getting used to the right feel for me, but after a week or so, it felt like it was a car that was my car. So it didn't take that much to get used to after a week, and now it's going to be very difficult to let it go. One thing I would say is this is not a road trip car, and I've probably, mentioned around that, but it's dangerous. That's not to say that you can't take road trips. It's just saying that you gotta be aware that energy options to recharge your vehicle may not be present where you would think they would be present, even if they're mapped out to be present. They may be broken, they may not charge as fast, someone else may be there. There's still certain challenges that are facing electric vehicles, and that is not saying that electric vehicles themselves are not worth having. I would easily have this as a secondary vehicle. I wouldn't have it as a primary vehicle with much choice. Apart from just knowing that most of what I would need it for is in-town commutes, or could plan for overnight trips and plugging it in overnight. If you don't care what the car looks like, if you're tired of fluctuating gas prices, and if you want to get from point A to point B with the least amount of muss and fuss and kind of feel like you're having fun while driving, this is more like having fun to me. I know some people would say, oh, a sporty car is fun. It isn't as fun for me. This is more fun. Speed doesn't matter to me. Efficiency matters to me. Technology that's accessible matters to me. Getting from point A to point B matters to me. In town is most of my driving, not so much commutes. So, if looks are everything to you, and if you have a large family, and if that would be a stress for you, not knowing if you're going to be able to get home after a long trip, this is not a car for you. But you can plan ahead. You can plan accordingly. Infrastructure will continue to, kind of be built out. Honestly, even Diana wondered if we'd be able to keep this car for longer because it was really a good car. Got a little stressful there, but what car doesn't stress you out, quite honestly? And if you're concerned like that was going to stress you out too much or you'd worry about it too much, your concerns will get allayed very quickly. You just learn to drive differently. And that's the easiest way to kind of accommodate the situation. Because really, honestly, this was a great car. I'd like to continue to work with Kia in some capacity, or certainly try other full-on electric vehicles, if only to do better comparisons with other electric vehicles. But given that this was my first experience with an electric vehicle, given that I did kind of get to that point of not knowing if I was going to get home, but was able to solve the problem, knowing how to plan ahead differently, could have resolved those issues, or knowing where you're going, or talking to other electric vehicle owners and getting an idea of, how you're going to be able to manage a road trip, knowing that most of your car driving is on a commute, a planned commute that you've done over and over and over again, or just in-town stuff. This is really, despite any kind of misgivings you might have about the design or that I might have about the design, this is a good vehicle. It was an absolutely joy to drive this car. If you have any questions that I did not address, feel free to ask them. Thank you again for your kind attention, your support, and at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices.